Hello and welcome. I am here to show you how to crochet a washcloth, and this is a washcloth from my beginner's bundle. So I have lots and lots of crochet washcloth designs. They're all created to help you learn new stitches, learn new patterns, and get confident with something new, but they're also totally adaptable. So they're all in written patterns in US and UK terms. You can purchase the bundle or you can just follow the videos. I'll give you all the instructions you need here to make them. But if you want to start to learn to read a pattern, then this is ideal because you can follow the instructions as well as, or you can come back to the instructions. So follow the written pattern and then come back to the video just to see if you're getting it right or not. So this first one I'm going to be making today is what I called cream pie. It is one of the simplest that I've got, and all of them, the patterns in this crochet, the beginners bundle, are all using your basic stitches. So I'm going to talk mostly in US terms when I go through this video, because that's what I prefer. I may mention the UK terms just to clarify every now and then. The written instructions are separated out. So if you prefer a UK terms to US, then definitely go to the pattern. There's ways that you can translate it inside the pattern. But for now, I just want to give you the instructions. So I'm going to use Knit Picks Dishy, which is designed for washcloth. So that's a worsted weight yarn, so that's equivalent to a 10 ply or a Aran weight. They're roughly the same, or any that take a 5mm hook, which is the size I'll be using. You can use any cotton that you've got. Now I will recommend that you use a cotton, partly because of its nature, but also when it's ruined, like if you do use it as a washcloth, once it's finished, you can then compost it. It'll recycle, like it'll decompose. Whereas if you use anything with a polyester or acrylic blend, it's not going to be the same. So not as good for the environment. If you're not so fussed, then by all means use anything. But you'll find a cotton is also better for displaying the stitches, and it's more absorptive than the acrylic yarns. So you'll just find it overall much nicer to work with for a washcloth, and they're much nicer. If you're using it in your bathroom, it's much nicer on your skin. All right, so this is really all you need. I'm using scrap yarn. I'm going to make it smaller than what the pattern says, but I am going to talk you through every single row until there's a repeat, and then you'll just repeat what the repeat is. All right, let me get ready and get started. So before we start, I'm going to assume that you already know how to hold your hook and yarn, you already know how to make a slip knot, and you know how to make a chain. I'm also going to assume that you already know the basic stitches that belong to this. So if you aren't comfortable with any of those, then I would go look through my playlist for the specific videos for those, because I don't want to hold everyone up. So this one is one we're going to use. It's called a wide double crochet, or in UK terms, that's a wide treble, which the only difference is that you're working between the stitches, not into the stitches. If you want to adjust this to anything else, this one doesn't have a specific chain count, so you can make it any chain count to any size that you want. Now the original pattern does say chain 40. I'm just going to chain, I'll probably chain about 20, 25. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. So as I said, I did want to make these smaller so they don't take all day. So this is a chain 20. I'm going to go to 25. 21, 22, 23, 24, 25. Okay, so you just make the chain to whatever side length that you want, and this pattern, it doesn't matter what the chain count is, so just count until you got to the size. Now this one, we're going to start by working into the chain. When we work into the chain, I prefer to work in the bump that's on the other side, just because it gives a neater edge. If you're going to add a border, it really doesn't matter, but just for me, I don't know, it's habit more than anything else. But you can work anywhere as long as you're consistent with where you work. So if you want to hold the chain facing you and just work into the loops, which will probably be easier, then by all means do that. But I'm going to work into the bumps. Now, each row is going to start with a chain 2. That chain 2 is not going to count as a stitch, but it is important to keep it because of how how wide double crochet works. If you do decide to skip it, then I'll give some instructions for that as well. So I'm going to start in the 3rd chain from the hook. 1, 2, so you can see I've got a bump there, so I'm going to work into that 3rd one, and I'm going to do a double crochet in that 1st stitch. Okay, and then I'm just going to do 1 double crochet in every chain along. Now, if you're not using a worsted weight or an Aran weight, using a different ply, then please match your hook to what that is, and also match it to what your tension works out as. Okay, so this is row 1, so all we're going to do is just 1 stitch into the end. So I'll just show you what it looks like, and then I will come back. So I'm going to finish this, so just continue that all the way to the end, and then once you get to the end, you're going to do a chain 2 and turn. Okay, and I'll show you from there. Okay, so that's row 1. So we're now going to do row 2. So if you haven't done your chain 2 before you turn, then add that now. Now what we're going to do is, normally when you are working a double crochet or your UK treble, you're going to work into this part of the stitch here. So you're working in under the V that you've got. This is a wide double crochet, so we're actually going to work in between the posts. So you're going to treat that a bit like a chain space. And I'll show you when we get to the end. I'll work all the way to the end for this one because I want you to be clear on why we keep that chain 2. Alright, so the chain 2 is just there to give the stitches some height. It does not count as a stitch. Alright, so we're going to do a double crochet into the space. Okay, and we're going to repeat that all the way down. You don't have to count your stitches, though if you are prone to losing a stitch, then it would be important to count. But I like to live a little dangerously, and I don't count my stitches. Unless I feel I've messed up, then I will count them. Okay, so if you see, if we're working along, we're just in between every stitch. So this one's going to be great for when we're watching the TV because you don't have to really pay much attention to what you're doing. And if you're just starting out, then there's less things to worry about. Okay. Now, if you are a member of the Hooked on Crochet Club, we do have this in the library, so you can access it there. And I will put links here to join if you want, but also to the beginner's bundle. So if you did want to start practicing reading patterns with a video that exists, then this is a good way to start. And this one's quite an easy one to get going with. And if it's a bit late for that, you can do that with the other videos that are on there. Okay, and I'm not going to show you exactly how to do the stitches because I do have those separate tutorials for those. Okay, so if you're not clear on the stitch, then I would go and learn that, and then I would come back for this one. All right, so we're nearing the end. Now, if you're not comfortable with a chain 2 to play with, what you're going to do is this last stitch would then be where you would work. So we're keeping the chain 2 because what we've done is we're essentially working on, like I've got my hook hand and I've got my yarn hand, okay? So we've been working on the yarn hand side of each stitch. So there's the first stitch, and then the first stitch of that row is gone on the yarn hand side in the gap there, which means when we get to the last one, we need to work on the yarn hand side. So if we didn't have the chain 2, we'd be working out in thin air. You'd have to work into the top of the stitch. But we do have the chain 2, so that last one, we're going to work into that space, and that just evens it all up nicely. And then we're going to chain 2, and we're going to turn. Okay, so you can see it looks a little bit spread out. You should see gaps. And then all you're going to do for this one is you're just going to keep repeating that row 2. So you're just going to keep working, so that first stitch will go in between those ones there, and you'll just work your way across until you get it to a square. So in the original pattern I chained 40 to begin with, and I worked to row 28. But this one I'm just going to work until it's square. So I'll be using my tape measure. So if you want to be perfect about it, you can use your tape measure, measure the width, and then you just keep going. So that's, what is that looking, well, we'd say roughly 17 centimeters by the time it squishes up, 17 to 18 centimeters. So you would keep going until you got to that same height. So each of these, what are they? I've got nearly 3 centimeters, 2.5 centimeters for 2 rows. So you're going to be looking at about 15 to 16 rows. So you just keep going until you get it to the size you want. It always needs more than you think. Okay, and I will come back once it's got to size. I will come back and I will demonstrate the border as well. So we're now on the border, and you can see, how many rows have I done? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18 rows. So this border I'm going to add is what I do pretty much standard for the base of all my borders. It just gives it like a foundation. So I'm going to start working across the stitch. So I'm going to work the end first, and then I'm going to work down the side, and then just work my way back up. So we're going to just start. You can have a chain 1 to start with if you want. I'm not going to, but I'm just going to do 1 single crochet into each stitch across. It's always easiest on the first side. And you can see this is how much yarn I've got left, so it should be enough for the border, though I may need some more, we'll see. But keeping it very basic. And just, you don't even need to add a border if you don't want to. I just find that for the majority of them it tidies them up. And you know, if you've got a plain one, you want to make it a bit fancier, it's your opportunity to add something more to it as well. So 1 single crochet. So if you're using UK terms, that's 1 double crochet in every stitch around. You can work down the side first if you prefer. Okay, so in this last stitch on the side, I'm going to do a corner, so it's going to be 1 single crochet, chain 2, and 1 single crochet. Okay, so when we get down to this end, we'll do the exact same, except that you're working into the chain spaces here. So here we're going to work around the post, so we're not working into it, we're going to work into the space, and I'll probably just aim to do 1 in each. If it feels like it's stretching a little bit far out, then you could put 2 in some of them. There's really no right or wrong way, though you don't want it to, actually I might just pull that out. You don't want it to pull too much, so I might do 2 in this one, or even do some in the space in between, just wherever feels kind of right to insert your hook. You don't want too many because it'll end up ruffled, and that's a look we're going to avoid. But that seems, I probably didn't need that one there. But yeah, you're just working around that post. You can count if you like. I never really do, but if you wanted to count, so you can make them even on each side. Or if you're doing adding a border that is going to need a specific stitch count, then by all means count them then as well. But this one, I'm just keeping it really, really simple. Okay, so then when we get to this, oh, I'm going to do one around the post. Okay, so then in the corner, so you can see it's a bit confusing here, but again, corner, so we're going to do 1 single crochet, chain 2, 1 single crochet. And the reason I do it, you can make them, you could do 3 single crochets and skip the chain 1 if you want. The reason I do them is because it's just easier to find the corner when you've got chain spaces. I'm all about keeping it simple. All right, so you can see it's a little bit harder to work into the chain, but just continue doing that. So for round 1, and I'll come back and show you round 2, which is a lot simpler, but do 1 in each stitch there, single crochet, chain 2 single crochet in the corner, and then work your way evenly down that side. And when you finish, I'll come back and I'll do the last stitch as well, just so you can see what I've done there. Okay, so just to finish that round 1, because we've already done the single crochet in there, we're just going to do single crochet, chain 2, and then just slip stitch to that first single crochet. Okay, so you can see now we've got a nice edge to it, so you could stop there if you wanted to, but I'm going to add another 2 rounds. So the first round, we're just going to now do pretty much the same, except now you've got single crochets to work into, so you're not working around any posts. So we're going to do 1 single crochet, and I'll start in that one, the stitch that I'm in. You can do a chain 1 to start with if that helps you, but we're just doing 1 single crochet in each stitch around. And if you need a tutorial for the single crochet, it's in the playlist as well. I can link to that, because this is more about helping you get through the pattern. So if you have the pattern, you can always try read the, well, it's a bit late now, you're here, but you could try read the pattern first and then come back here for some guidance if it's confusing you. So just 1 into each. Okay, then when we get to the corner, so we're going to work in the chain space, so you've got a chain 2 space on the corner. If you decided to switch to all single crochet, then by all means do that, but we're just going to do the same corner. So in the chain 2 space, we're going to do a single crochet, chain 2, single crochet. All right, and then exactly what we just did then, just make sure at that corner one that you do get that little one there on the side. And then you're going to just continue round. All right. So do the same for each one. Just remember, finish this round the same as you would for round 1. So you're doing the single crochet, or you're finishing in your corner on this one. And then if you want a 3rd round, it's exactly the same as this round. You'll just be working with more. Okay, so there you go. So I'll come back to show the finished piece. Okay, so I just read the pattern again, and I did a different border for the round 3. So you can continue, you could even, so I'm at the end of the yarn I had left, so I'd probably have just finished this off, but the pattern did have a 3rd round that was slightly different. So when I'm using the same color, to do my color changes, I like to do the magic knot. So essentially you're just tying the end of each one around the end of the other. They do need to be knotted on in a different direction, so when you pull them tight, it doesn't come apart. I could have just fastened off as well. And you can trim right next to it. You'll have a little knot, but that's it. All right, so apparently for this one, so round 3, so we've given it a little bit of a frilly border. So this is the basic border that I would have, and that's where I'd be happy to keep it. So we're just going to do 1 single crochet, chain 1, but we're not skipping a stitch, so we're going to end up with a bit of a ruffle. So this is what happens when you do, or a frill, you could say. So we're not skipping a stitch. So single crochet, chain 1, single crochet, chain 1. Okay, so we working into every stitch, just putting that chain 1 in between. I'm just about to get to the knot there. Okay, so you can see that ends up with a little bit of a fluffy edge, if you want to call it that. So then in the corner, we're not near there yet. Oops, I forgot chain space. Oh, that one had one. Just go a bit faster if I can. So the corner, we're still doing the same as the corner we did before, but you're going to have a chain 1 when you come out of it as well, so that we still have that chain space. So you can speed me up to get there. Okay, so I am going to be publishing, so this washcloth is part of the beginner's bundle, so as you can see it's been a perfect one for those of you that are new to crochet or just want to, you know, get back into the habit of it or create a habit for it. This is perfect for that. Okay, so that's the last one, so we're going to chain 1. So we're going to still do in the corner, so you've got the chain 2 space there, single crochet, chain 2, single crochet, and then chain 1. Okay, and then we're just going to make sure we get that little one right there in the corner, so it's got its little window, and then we continue on the way we were. Okay, so I am going to release one of these a week until they're all released, so there's 5. So if you want to use it as a challenge for yourself to learn to read patterns or just try something new without a video, then I'd jump in now and purchase the bundle. Or you can wait till they're all out, but these are a great way to learn. But yeah, I'll release a new one every week, so there's 5 in this bundle, so you can have a new one to try each weekend. So yeah, a week from this release date, it'll be waiting for you. And if you want access to a full library of washcloths, then you can join the Hooked on Crochet Club. There's, well, all of the ones that I've published are in there, and you can get help from me at any time, so you don't have to wait for the videos. You can just reach out and say, I'm stuck, and I will help you out on that one. But all the links that you need are in the show notes as well. Alright, so again, the corner, single crochet, chain 2, single crochet in that chain 2 space, then chain 1 out of there. Okay, so you can see it ends up a little bit ruffled because we've got extra stitches in there, but I'm going to continue around and I'll come back when we're done and just show you fastening off and weaving in the ends. All right, so fastening off, that's just done. I like the size of this. It's smaller than the original pattern, so again, just if you're going to, you can adjust this to anything that you want. This is something that I incorporate into almost all my patterns. There are some that you just can't because the design doesn't allow for that, but for the majority of them, I like to give you something that you can go and create something else for. So you could turn this into a blanket, you could do a cushion cover. If it was a cushion cover, I'd probably make sure that there is some fabric behind it because it is quite a gapey looking one. But yeah, and then you can use any fiber. But the whole point to the washcloths is to help you discover what you do and don't like. You know, it's not overwhelming to practice on something this size. and then you've still got something that's useful at the end of it. And it doesn't matter if it doesn't look perfect, because, you know, it's going to be washing your dishes or wiping your bench, or if it's in your bathroom, you'll be washing yourself. So yeah, but they're a good size for practicing and gifting, and yeah, it doesn't matter if they're not perfect. There you go. So that's this one, and there'll be another one coming out next week, which is number 2 in the beginner's bundle. So yeah, hit subscribe if you haven't already. Hit subscribe so you can see what else is coming.